There is something undeniably powerful about a woman who respects herself. She doesn't need to shout to be heard, and she doesn't beg for validation from the world, because her worth is already known to her. She walks with quiet confidence, speaks with conviction, and lives with boundaries that protect her peace. She doesn't chase attention. She commands respect simply by being true to who she is. Self-respect isn't about arrogance. It's about recognizing your own value without needing anyone else to confirm it. It's about knowing when to walk away, when to say no, and when to stand firm. The world might try to test you, but a woman who honors herself will never crumble under pressure. She understands that being respected starts from within, because how you treat yourself sets the standard for how others will treat you. Too many women have been taught to shrink themselves, to be polite at the cost of their truth, to put others first even when it's tearing them apart. But the moment a woman decides to stop betraying herself for the comfort of others, that's the moment her real power begins. She begins to shine. And people notice, not because she's trying to impress, but because authenticity has a glow that can't be faked. A self-respecting woman is selective about her energy. She doesn't engage in gossip. She doesn't entertain drama. She protects her dreams and refuses to settle for less than what she deserves. Her presence is magnetic because it's rooted in dignity and inner strength. People may not always understand her, but they can't ignore her. That's what happens when you become grounded in who you are. She doesn't compete with other women because she's too busy building her own life. She doesn't beg for love because she's already full within. She doesn't fear solitude because her peace is more valuable than fake company. And in this world where so many are looters, king for shortcuts to self-worth through likes, attention, and validation, a woman who respects herself becomes rare. And because she's rare, she becomes priceless. This series is for that woman, the one who's tired of being undervalued, the one who's ready to rise, not by force, but by grace. We're going to talk about mindset, boundaries, healing, identity, strength, and everything in between. Every part of this journey is a step toward deeper self-worth, because the world will only start respecting you the moment you start respecting yourself. And once you do, there's no going back. It begins with how you see yourself. The foundation of self-respect is not built on how others treat you. It begins with how you see yourself. What do you believe about your worth? What are the silent thoughts you think when no one is watching? Because before the world ever labels you, you have already labeled yourself. A woman who respects herself doesn't wait for someone else to tell her she's enough. She knows she is. She doesn't rely on praise to feel valuable, because her sense of self-worth comes from the inside. This doesn't mean she never struggles with doubt or fear. It means she has chosen not to let those things define her. She stands in front of the mirror and decides to speak life over herself, even when the world has tried to tear her down. So many women grow up learning to be kind, to give, to accommodate. But rarely are they taught to honor themselves. They're taught how to please others, but not how to protect their own spirit. That changes when you start seeing yourself as worthy of love, protection, and respect, not just from others, but from yourself. Look at your own patterns. Do you constantly doubt your decisions? Do you apologize for taking up space? Do you shrink your opinions just to keep the peace? Every time you silence yourself to make others comfortable, you're sending a message to your own soul that your truth doesn't matter, but it does. And the more you stand up for that truth, the more your inner power starts to return. You have to be the first one to believe that you are worth more. No one can do that for you. You have to be the one who says, I deserve better than this, and actually walk away when something doesn't align with that. Whether it's a toxic relationship, a disrespectful job, or even your own self-sabotaging habits, it starts with you choosing a new standard. And that new standard begins with self-awareness. Sit with you. Yourself. Ask the hard questions. What have you tolerated for too long? Where have you abandoned your own voice? What version of yourself have you been playing small for? These questions hurt, but they also heal, because awareness is the first step to change. Respecting yourself means becoming your own protector. You don't wait for someone else to rescue you. You become the woman who has her own back. You build your confidence one decision at a time, one boundary at a time, one honest moment at a time, and over time, you become unshakable. The world sees what you reflect. If you carry yourself like you're valuable, others start to treat you that way. If you speak like your voice matters, others begin to listen. You set the tone for your life. And it all starts with how you see yourself. Boundaries are not cruel. They are a form of self-respect. There comes a time in every woman's life when she realizes not everyone deserves access to her. Not every friend is really a friend. Not every opportunity is worth the cost of her peace. And not every relationship is meant to stay. That moment of clarity is the moment boundaries are born, not out of bitterness, but out of self-respect. You see, boundaries are not walls. They're not meant to keep love out. They're meant to protect the love you have for yourself. They say, this is what I allow and this is what I will not. And the moment a woman stops allowing disrespect, whether it comes dressed as a joke, a favor, or fake love, she starts commanding a new level of treatment from the world. A woman who respects herself doesn't feel guilty for saying no. She doesn't over-explain her choices. She doesn't beg to be understood. Her no is complete. Her silence is intentional. Her distance is a sign that something has crossed a line. And instead of trying to change others, she simply changes what she allows into her life. Many women are afraid of setting boundaries because they don't want to be labeled as mean, cold, or selfish. But let me ask you this. When did protecting your heart become a crime? When did valuing your time and peace become wrong? The truth is, the people who benefit from your lack of boundaries will always be the first to call you difficult when you finally set them. But don't let that stop you. A woman with boundaries is a woman with clarity. She knows who she is, what she stands for, and what she will no longer tolerate. She doesn't explain her standards. She lives them. She doesn't chase people who walk away. She blesses their path and keeps growing. And guess what? The more you respect your own boundaries, the more aligned people show up in your life. People who don't drain you. People who don't test your limits. People who see your strength and honor it. That's the beauty of living in your power. It filters out everything that doesn't belong. Setting boundaries also means you're no longer available for your own excuses. You stop letting your fears control you. You stop allowing laziness, indecision, or self-doubt to drive your life. You draw a line with yourself and say, no more. Because self-respect isn't just about how others treat you, it's also about how you treat you. It takes courage to draw that line, but it also brings freedom. When you stop apologizing for protecting your energy, your life begins to align. Your spirit becomes lighter. Your voice becomes stronger, and the world, it starts to notice, because a woman who respects herself is impossible to ignore. You teach the world how to treat you. One of the greatest truths a woman will ever learn is this. You teach people how to treat you. Through your actions, your boundaries, your reactions, and your silence, you are constantly sending messages about what you will accept and what you will not. And when you begin to respect yourself deeply, the world has no choice but to follow that example. Think about it. When you constantly forgive someone who keeps hurting you, you teach them that your love comes without accountability. When you stay silent in the face of disrespect, you show them that your voice can be ignored. When you keep giving chances after your trust has been broken, you tell them that your boundaries are flexible. But when you start saying enough, when you start leaving instead of begging, when you protect your peace like it's sacred, suddenly the treatment you receive changes. A woman who respects herself doesn't wait for people to see her worth. She knows her worth and walks in it. She doesn't need someone to love her in order to feel lovable. She doesn't need applause to feel valuable. Her value is not up for debate. It's not a question. It's a fact rooted in how she shows up for herself every single day. She shows up with intention. She chooses her words carefully. She doesn't gossip or entertain negative energy. She doesn't seek attention. She attracts it through her presence. There is a calmness in her, a quiet fire. She walks into a room and people feel her presence before she even speaks. That's the energy of a woman who knows exactly who she is. But that kind of strength doesn't just appear. It's built, it's earned, it's chosen again and again every time you decide not to tolerate the same old cycle. Every time you speak up instead of staying silent. Every time you protect your peace, walk away from chaos, or say no to what drains you. Every décision becomes a lesson to the world. This is how I expect to be treated. And yes, there will be people who won't like your growth. People who are comfortable with the old version of you, the one who stayed quiet, who sacrificed, who tolerated. When you stop playing small, you threaten their comfort. Let them go. Let them be uncomfortable. Because your job is not to shrink for others, it's to grow for yourself. The more you demand respect from yourself, the more you attract it from others. You begin to see relationships shift. Conversations become healthier. The people around you either rise to meet you or fall away. That's not loss. That's alignment. Remember, the world is watching you. Not in a judgmental way, but in a reflective one. Whatever you reflect, it reflects back. So if you want to be treated with kindness, be kind to yourself. If you want to be taken seriously, take yourself seriously. If you want deep love, start by deeply loving your own soul. Because when a woman truly respects herself, every part of her, she becomes a mirror. And the world has no choice but to respond with the same level of respect. A woman who heals herself becomes unstoppable. There is something unshakable about a woman who has chosen to heal. She no longer lives based on her wounds. She no longer reacts from pain. She no longer carries the weight of her past as a curse, but wears it like armor. And in that transformation, in that silent battle she fights within herself, she becomes unstoppable. Healing is not easy. It forces you to face everything you've been avoiding. Old patterns, buried pain, unresolved trauma. It strips away illusions and leaves you raw, exposed, and sometimes alone. But it also gives you something no one can ever take away. Power. Not power over others, but power within. The kind that glows without needing a spotlight. A woman who chooses healing over bitterness is a woman who chooses freedom. She no longer blames others for her unhappiness. She doesn't seek revenge. She seeks peace. She no longer waits to be saved. She saves herself. She looks in the mirror and says, "No one is coming to rescue me, and that's okay. I am strong enough to rescue myself." And make no mistake, healing isn't loud. It doesn't always look like a breakthrough. Sometimes it looks like walking away without a fight. Sometimes it looks like staying in on a Friday night to journal. Sometimes it looks like crying alone and still waking up the next day to face life again. Healing is often quiet, but its results are loud. As you begin to heal, you begin to respect yourself more. You stop trying to fix people. You stop trying to earn love. You stop settling for relationships that make you feel small. You realize that your softness is not weakness, and your strength isn't something you have to prove. You become whole. A healed woman stops begging for closure. She gives it to herself. She doesn't chase anyone, because she knows that what's meant for her won't need to be forced. She doesn't stay in places while here her spirit feels heavy. She doesn't carry guilt for putting herself first. Her healing has taught her that self-neglect is not loyalty, and the world begins to notice this shift. People treat her differently. Opportunities open. The energy she once gave to chaos is now invested in her growth. Her mind becomes clearer. Her standards rise. Her glow returns. Not just physical, but spiritual. That's the light of a woman who has done the work. She no longer fears being alone because she's discovered her own company is rich, peaceful, and fulfilling. She doesn't tolerate emotional crumbs because she knows she deserves the full table. And she doesn't explain herself to those who are committed to misunderstanding her. Her focus is not on being liked, but on being aligned. Healing doesn't make life perfect, but it makes you powerful. Because now, instead of reacting from your wounds, you respond from your wisdom. And there is nothing more powerful than a woman who knows where she's been, who she is, and where she's going. Stop settling. You were never meant to live small. A woman who respects herself stops settling, not just in love, but in life. She no longer accepts just enough when she knows she's capable of more. She doesn't stay in places where her soul feels ignored. She doesn't shrink to make others feel comfortable, because she knows now she was never created to live a small life. Settling is subtle. It doesn't always look like desperation. Sometimes it shows up as silence when your heart is screaming, as comfort when you're really stuck, as loyalty to people who drain you. But deep down there's a whisper, a voice that says, "This isn't right. This isn't enough. I deserve more." And when a woman starts to listen to that voice instead of ignoring it, her life begins to change. She stops settling in conversations where she has to beg to be heard. She stops staying in relationships that only give her love in fragments. She stops forcing herself to be okay with things that hurt her spirit, because she understands now that settling isn't humility, it's self-betrayal. You cannot live a full life if you keep making excuses for half love, half effort, and half dreams. You weren't born to live in the shadows of your potential. You were born to take up space, to rise, to build a life that reflects your deepest values, not just survive in one that others handed you. And yes, walking away from almost is hard. It means facing the unknown. It means choosing growth over comfort. But that choice, that brave, scary, beautiful choice, is what sets a woman free. She walks away not because she's ungrateful, but because she knows her worth. She knows she's not asking for too much. She's just asking in the wrong place. A woman who respects herself stops waiting for someone else to give her permission. She becomes her own permission. She doesn't need the world to tell her she's ready. She decides she's ready. She doesn't keep chasing broken things, hoping they'll heal her. She turns inward, builds her own foundation, and that's when real confidence begins. You cannot level up while staying loyal to the things that keep you stuck. Whether it's an unhealthy friendship, a dead-end job, or even a belief that you're not good enough, let it go. Say goodbye to playing small. Say goodbye to making yourself invisible just to be accepted. You were not made to blend in. You were made to be seen. And when you stop settling, your energy changes. You attract people who match your level. You create space for better love, better opportunities, and better peace. You begin to walk differently. You speak differently because you're no longer moving from lack. You're moving from self-worth. This is not about perfection. It's about alignment, about having the courage to say, this chapter ends here, about honoring your truth even when it's uncomfortable. Because at the end of the day, a woman who refuses to settle is a woman who refuses to live a life that doesn't reflect her soul. And that kind of woman, she becomes unstoppable. Confidence comes from consistency, not compliments. Confidence isn't something you're born with, it's something you build. And a woman who truly respects herself doesn't wait for others to tell her she's powerful. She proves it to herself through the way she shows up again and again, even on the hard days. Because she knows this truth, real confidence doesn't come from compliments, it comes from consistency. When you get up and take care of yourself, when you follow through on your word, when you choose your growth over your excuses, that's when self-trust is born. That's when your inner voice starts saying, you've got this, you're doing it, keep going. And that voice becomes louder than any outside validation. The world will try to convince you that your value lies in your appearance, your status, or the attention you get. But a confident woman knows that none of those things matter if she's constantly breaking promises to herself. You can have 100 people cheering for you, but if your spirit is tired of your own neglect, the noise won't mean a thing. Confidence grows in the small, quiet moments. When you choose discipline over comfort, when you say no to distractions, when you show up for your goals even when no one's watching. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you're reminding your soul that you are dependable, that you are strong, that you are in control. And it's not about being fearless. It's about showing up even when you're afraid. It's about taking action even when self-doubt whispers in your ear. A confident woman isn't perfect. She's resilient. She has learned to keep moving forward despite the noise in her head. She doesn't wait to feel ready. She acts, and her confidence grows from there. Self-respect means choosing progress over perfection. It means starting messy rather than waiting for the right moment. It means understanding that setbacks are part of the process, but giving up isn't. Because every time you choose growth over comfort, you're stepping deeper into your power. Don't rely on applause to believe in yourself. Don't depend on someone else's approval to feel worthy. Build yourself up from the inside. Create a routine that nourishes you. Set goals that stretch you. Speak kindly to yourself when you stumble. And most of all, keep showing up day after day, choice after choice, action after action. That's where real confidence lives, not in the spotlight, but in your habits, not in being admired, but in being consistent. And when you become a woman who consistently honors herself, trusts herself, and builds herself, there's nothing you can't handle. You don't have to announce your power, you just have to live it, quietly, steadily, boldly. And over time, the world will notice, but more importantly, you will notice. You'll look back one day and say, I did that, I became her. Not because someone gave you permission, but because you gave it to yourself. Protecting your peace is not selfish, it's survival. A woman who respects herself understands that her peace is sacred. It's not optional, it's not something she sacrifices to please others. It's not something she puts on the line just to be accepted, understood, or liked. She protects her peace not because she's selfish, but because she knows her peace is the foundation of her power. You cannot build a strong life in chaos. You cannot grow in environments that constantly drain you. You cannot evolve if you're always in survival mode. And too many women stay in noise, emotional, mental, relational noise, because they've been conditioned to believe that taking space, being unavailable, or saying I need time makes them unkind. It does not. It makes them wise. Protecting your peace means getting selective about who and what you allow into your world. It means no longer answering every message, engaging in every argument, or entertaining every request. It means listening to your energy when it says, I don't want to be around this person, or I feel exhausted after this conversation. That's not rudeness. That's self-awareness. You do not owe anyone constant access to your mind, heart, or energy. You do not have to be on all the time. You are allowed to unplug. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to leave messages on read, cancel plans that feel heavy, and pull back from people who only show up to take. Because your peace, it's yours. Not everyone deserves to touch it. A woman who protects her peace is not cold, she's clear. She knows her triggers, she knows her limits, and she doesn't let guilt dictate her decisions. She doesn't fear missing out because she knows that anything that requires her to abandon herself is not truly meant for her. There is power in stillness, in being okay with your own company, in enjoying your life quietly without needing to explain or justify your choices. And in that stillness, you find clarity. You begin to hear your own voice again, the one that gets drowned out when you're constantly overstimulated and overcommitted. Protecting your peace also means protecting your energy field. Stop entertaining gossip, Walk away from conversations that feel heavy with judgment. Unfollow accounts that trigger insecurity. Say no to people who only show up with chaos. Your mental, emotional, and spiritual space is precious. Guard it like your life depends on it, because it does. And when you begin to live this way, something shifts. You stop chasing validation. You stop explaining your boundaries. You stop over-apologizing for prioritizing yourself. You begin to realize that peace is not found in a perfect life, but in a protected one. You are not selfish for wanting stillness. You are not difficult for demanding respect. You are not cold for creating distance from dysfunction. You are a woman who has learned that inner peace is power, and once you've tasted it, you'll never let it go. The world respects a woman who guards her peace, because they can feel the power in her presence. It's calm, it's grounded, it's unshakable. And that's what happens when a woman finally decides, I will no longer set myself on fire to keep others warm. Becoming the standard, not the exception. A woman who respects herself doesn't wait for someone to raise the bar. She is the bar. She doesn't ask for permission to live well, to be loved right, or to be treated with dignity. She becomes the standard by embodying the standard, and that is what makes her powerful. Not loud power, not arrogant power, but calm, consistent, unshakable power. She stops auditioning for places that don't value her. She stops begging for the bare minimum. She no longer gets excited by crumbs of attention or empty words. She is not impressed by gestures that lack consistency, because she has grown into a woman who recognizes that her presence is a privilege, and not everyone qualifies. You don't become the standard by demanding it from others. You become the standard by living it first within yourself, by refusing to gossip, by choosing honesty, by healing instead of hurting others, by staying loyal to your values even when no one is watching. You become someone whose life speaks louder than her words. And yes, this will make you different. Some people won't understand you. They'll call you too much, too picky, too high maintenance. But understand this, the ones who are threatened by your standard are the ones who benefit when you don't have one. Let them talk, let them go. Because you are no longer available for anything that doesn't meet the level of love, respect, and effort you now offer yourself. A woman who respects herself also doesn't fear solitude. She is not desperate for connection. She is intentional with it. She's not afraid to be alone because her own company is rich. She would rather be alone in peace than surrounded by people who leave her feeling unseen, unheard, or unloved. Her standard protects her from settling, and that's a gift. Becoming the standard also means honoring your vision. You don't lower your dreams to make others comfortable. You don't water down your goals so you don't look too ambitious. You stop seeking approval from people who have no idea where you're going. You keep rising, you keep building, because your future is yours, and you don't owe smallness to anyone. And when people meet you, they feel the difference. You walk with purpose. You speak with clarity. You carry yourself like someone who knows where she's been and where she's headed. And suddenly people start to rise to your level. They start to show up differently, not because you ask them to, but because your presence demands it. That's the power of becoming the standard. It's not about control, it's about alignment, about choosing quality over quantity, about living in such a way that anything less than truth, depth, and respect no longer appeals to you. When a woman becomes the standard, she no longer hopes to be chosen. She chooses herself. And in doing so, she becomes unforgettable. Not because she's trying to be, but because a woman who respects herself is rare, and the world always remembers rare. If there's one truth that echoes through every part of this journey, it's this. When a woman respects herself, the world learns to do the same. Not because she demands attention, but because her very existence radiates purpose, strength, and dignity. She becomes unshakable, not because life gets easier, but because she becomes wiser. Respecting yourself isn't about being perfect, it's about being honest. It's about looking at your life and asking, does this honor who I truly am? And if the answer is no, it's about having the courage to change, to let go, to level up. That's not selfish. That's sacred. There is no magic switch. This kind of transformation happens one decision at a time, one boundary at a time, one moment of silence where you choose to listen to yourself instead of silencing your truth. You don't just wake up confident. You build confidence by showing up for yourself again and again, especially when it's hard. The woman you are becoming is shaped by what you tolerate, by how you speak to yourself, by how you walk away from what no longer fits. She is not born, she is built. Built from the ashes of what broke you, built from the wisdom of your healing, built from the boldness of your standards. Let go of the idea that you need to prove your worth. You don't. Your worth is not something to earn, it's something to own. You don't have to perform to be loved. You don't have to bend to be accepted. You don't have to shrink to be safe. The right people, the right opportunities, the right energy will meet you where you stand. when you stand fully in your truth. So here's your reminder. You don't need to compete, you don't need to chase, you don't need to explain why you require respect. You simply become the kind of woman who lives by it. And in doing so, you shift everything around you. Let them talk, let them misunderstand, let them walk away, because the MO, you grow, the more you outgrow. That's not failure, it's alignment. That's not loneliness, it's elevation. And the higher you rise, the more sacred your circle becomes. You are not asking for too much, you are asking for what you give. And if someone cannot meet you there, they are not for you. Release them with peace. Because the more space you make, the more your life begins to reflect your worth. You are the foundation. Everything in your life is built upon how you see and treat yourself. So build strong, build with boundaries, build with love, build with grace, and never again apologize for expecting the same from the world. Because the woman who respects herself doesn't just change her own life. She inspires others to do the same. She becomes a quiet revolution, a force of dignity. And once she rises, there's no turning back. You are her. Now live like it